Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. Haley Sutton tapping in for Tommy Tran, and we pick up our conversation in the NFL. We started with 10 vacancies, and all of our coaching candidates have officially been hired. Those spots have been filled in the NFL. The Raiders verbally agreeing to an agreement with OC Klint Kubiak. No paperwork can be signed until the Super Bowl is over, but either way, we've got our list. So let's get to some grading here on HQ Spotlight. We've got NFL analyst Charles Davis tapping in on HQ Spotlight. Charles, I'm going to call you Professor CD for this segment because we've got a lot of teams to get through here as we hand out a grade for each hire. We're going alphabetically here, so for those of you at home, there's no bias here. We're starting with the Arizona Cardinals at the top. Of course, they parted ways with Jonathan Gannon. They brought in Mike LaFleur to take over. Professor CD, what's the grade in this one?
Well, Haley, first of all, I hope that none of my high school nor college professors are actually watching this segment, because if they heard you call me Professor CD, that might have just ended it for all of them. But since we are starting with Arizona, I've given it a D, and it almost feels generous, because when I look at grading the job, it's not just the person coming into the job, it's what is the job and what's awaiting that person. They've got a quarterback situation to figure out. Kyler Murray, no Kyler Murray, what's going to happen there? Defensively, they're in need of some playmakers on that side of the ball. You have a division where 3 teams were in the playoffs and yours was not. And any of those 3 teams could have represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. Seattle ultimately did it. Very difficult job. Remember, Mike LaFleur was the offense coordinator for Robert Saleh with the New York Jets. Never really got things going there on that side of the ball. Quarterback situation couldn't get figured out with Zach Wilson. This is a tough one for Arizona. I hope that it goes way better than what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, not the splashiest hire, but we can only give him what he's been given, so we'll wait and see how it works out. I will mention that he's going to be 39 coaching in the 2026 season, and that was the same age his older brother Matt began his career in Green Bay. So maybe some advice to get from his big brother there. Yes, fingers crossed. Let's move along to the Atlanta Falcons, where the Kevin Stefanski era is set to begin. He tries to take a team, Charles, that has consistently finished 8-9, at least over the past few years. Does Stefanski change that for you here? How do you grade it?
I really like it in a lot of ways. I give it a B because of past history in Atlanta, where they've had these opportunities to get over the hump in their division. They just haven't quite gotten there. Can Kevin Stefanski get them there? I do think that the talent that awaits him fits his philosophy very well on offense, all right? Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier running the football. Kevin Stefanski loves to run the football, right? Got to get the quarterback Michael Penix going with some of this boot and play action stuff that they're going to want to do on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Drake London helps them. Kyle Pitts really came along at tight end. And, of course, they really fortified themselves on defense last year with their top 2 picks being edge rushers. So it's a division that's open and available for them. I think Kevin Stefanski being out of Cleveland might be the happiest coach we've got going. But now he's got to get Atlanta from that next step. Not just in contention, but at the top of that division.
Yeah, shout out to our guy, Matt Ryan, our former CBS colleague there. He was wanting people to finish the sentence, right? Welcome to Atlanta, where the players play. He's trying to get it done out there in Atlanta.
Yes, go get him, Matt. Hey, listen, we're all huge fans of Matty Ice, so there is some bias in this one. I'm rooting hard for that guy.
We all are rooting just a little bit harder for Matt Ryan and those Falcons, Charles. Love that. Let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens, because we mentioned an 8-9 season. That's how they finished last year. Obviously, we saw the change, a surprising change, if you will, but a fresher face, Charles, in Jesse Minter, the former Chargers OC.
Yeah, I'm giving it a B, but I feel like it could be so much higher based on 2 things. Number one, continuing on the defensive side of the ball, which is Jesse Minter's, specialty. And look, play like a Raven is their motto. A lot of that's on the defensive side of the ball. They almost always play excellent defense. That fits perfectly for him to go over there. The reason I don't go A on it is you got to show us that, hey, you and Lamar Jackson are really in sync, and now you're getting the best out of Lamar Jackson playing quarterback moving forward with that offensive side of the ball. Otherwise, I'm loving this hire. I think Jesse Minter has been terrific with the Chargers. I think that going to the Ravens, it seems to fit really, really well with the people that are there. He just has to make sure he and Lamar are in lockstep together staying healthy and fighting it out in that AFC North division.
Got to keep Lamar healthy. That's the key, as we saw this year. When he is on the field and operating, that team can be really well. Let's pivot to the Buffalo Bills here, where Brandon Beane has had a very busy week with the Bills. He's standing 10 toes, though, on that Joe Brady promotion here, Professor CD. What's the grade to give in Buffalo?
Well, without using all of Brandon's language in defending his hire.
We don't have enough beeps for that.
All right. I'm just going to tell you, Haley, I think it's a bleeping A. All right. Because I'm a big believer in Joe Brady. And obviously, Josh Allen sat in on these meetings. Now, I really do believe he didn't sit in on the extra meetings, like, what are we going to do? How's it going to go? I'm sure they asked him a few different things. I think it was a smart move by the Bills to kind of have him there for the locker room and representative of their team. But Joe Brady's there, and he's going to get that stamp of approval from Josh Allen. What I really like about what Joe Brady has done already is bringing in Jimmy Leonard as his defensive coordinator. I think that Jimmy Leonard is a talented coordinator, a talented coach, and that's a side of the ball that continues to need some help. Brandon Beane as the GM is going to have to continue to help them with some playmakers on that side of the ball. Obviously, we keep focusing on the offense and the wide receivers and the whole deal. Brandon will give me some bleeping words for that, but all I'm telling you is I think that he's going to get some players. They've got to fortify the defense, but I like where we're going with Joe Brady with some continuity on an organization that has played awfully well. I don't see any reason to break up the band in a big way. I like this hire.
What I like, too, is that Brandon Beane in that conversation, that soundbite, if you will, he was like, look, if I make a mistake, I will have the moving truck out and ready to go. But he points right at Josh Allen and says, there is my proof. So you got to love it.
Brandon gets it, Haley. He absolutely gets it. You and I coming from a college atmosphere, how many times have we heard when our football coach or our basketball coach isn't doing really well, they have moving signs in the yard that fans have put there. Brandon Beane gets it. He understands and knows he's holding himself totally accountable here.
If nothing else, he is keeping things interesting in Buffalo out there. So we'll have to wait and see. An A, though, from our Professor CD there in Buffalo.
Yes, I really like Joe Brady a lot.
Let's move on to Cleveland. The AFC North, at least, feels a little bit to me, Charles, like an episode of Love Island. You've got like all the main characters, and then they like start in one place, and then they end up dating someone else, and then they end up in another spot. That's the AFC North to me right now. So we've got people moving around in different areas. Either way, Todd Monken no longer with the Ravens. He is now in charge of Cleveland. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think if you ask the fans, it's probably an F. All right? I mean, let's just be honest about it. Fans want to hear a name that excites them, a name that everyone's talking about, right? A name that everyone goes, oh my God, you got him, you beat out them. But sometimes you get the guy you need, even if you don't know much about him. I think the Detroit Lions gave Dan Campbell maybe a D when he got hired, but he was the right guy. I give this a B because Todd Monken can coach. And with this quarterback situation that they have, Shedeur Sanders should be their starter going into next year, barring a draft pick or a trade. He can coach quarterbacks. He can coach offense. Things work very well when he's around. And I know the appearance isn't what people want, but it's exactly what they need right now. Haley, I'm not saying that they go right to the top of the division. I'm not even saying that they're a playoff team. But I think Todd Monken understands football very well. He's going to put this team together, make them accountable, and let's see where it goes from there. But I know a lot of people really don't like this hire. I like it better than most.
The running joke on social media was like, his clothes are baggy, he means business. There's no drip. It's all just straight dad jeans and dad polos there. Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. Professor CD here. Not official yet, but Klint Kubiak intends to step in and be that next head coach in Las Vegas.
Yeah, this is a tough one because the situation he's walking into, Haley, John Spytek is the general manager, and obviously Tom Brady's heavily involved in this. They've got a lot of work to do with this roster. Me and my crew, we ended up doing 4 or 5 Raiders games last year, and it was an abject disaster in a lot of ways, both sides of the football. There is some talent there led by Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball, but offensive line was struggling. They've wasted Ashton Genty as a runner. He was getting hit in the backfield way too often. No big great game breakers at the wide receiver position. Obviously, the tight end is terrific, all right? But Brock Bowers, got to just keep him healthy. I'm giving it a B because of who Klint Kubiak is and understanding how to do things, minimize what's bad, and emphasize what is good. Plus, he's going to get the best of everything. He's probably going to get a brand new quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. This gives John Spytek a chance to go ahead and continue to build through the draft. People may want to come to Las Vegas and play with the Tom Brady stamp of approval, but Klint Kubiak always has been successful, and it runs right through the family.
What'd you do earlier? We crossed our fingers for the LaFleur family, so we'll do the same for the Kubiaks, too.
Kubiak's always seemed to figure it out pretty well. Remember, Dad owns a Super Bowl ring as a Super Bowl winning head coach, so I think they know what they're doing.
They do. They certainly know how to win here. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. The longest playoff win drought, Charles, in SoFlo, right down here. So the pressure is on for Jeff Hafley here. The fans are wanting a win. They were not patient with Mike McDaniel. Can he meet the moment here? What's the grade?
Well, I think it'll be a different atmosphere when Jeff Hafley walks into the room versus with Mike McDaniel, only in terms of, we got to see, you mentioned drip before, right? Yeah. That was Mike McDaniel, right? He was the cool guy on the sidelines, and the offense in the early days was really humming. I give this a C for this reason. Jeff Hafley, coming from the Packers, didn't finish the way he wanted to with the defensive side of the ball, which was his specialty, right? That was a tough one with Chicago and right on down the line. But even bigger, remember what I told you, it's not just the coach, because I think Jeff Hafley did a really nice job at Boston College, a head coach, and had him go in the right direction. It's what waits for you. Right now, Haley, who's playing quarterback? Are they going to go with Tua? Are they going to eat all that contract and kind of go to the dead money like Denver did with Russell Wilson? And if so, does that mean Quinn Ewers? Zach Wilson? Who's going to play that position for them? And by the way, who's in your division again? Oh yeah, the Super Bowl team, which is New England, the Buffalo Bills, who we all expected to win the division and still expect to be good. The Jets, I don't throw in there right now, but I think this is a really tough uphill battle, even though there may be some talent waiting for him. I just think this division, based off what we've seen, I don't think the top two teams are going away.
Yeah, it's certainly stark difference. We even saw the photo there of Hafley and John Eric Sullivan where they look like twins. So it's definitely a little bit of a step back in terms of that flavor.
And that's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny.
No, it's not. Charles, almost done here working through our coaching carousel here. We move on to the New York Giants. Of course, the biggest hire, I feel like, of the cycle was adding John Harbaugh, and he's already been busy. He's been adding additions to his staff here. Matt Nagy, the OC there. Everyone's really excited about this new era of Giants football. Is it warranted here, Charles?
I think that it is, and I think that this is one of those ones where you want to poke holes in it. You want to find reasons to go in the other direction because maybe that gives you a few different clicks, but this is an A hire all the way through. Sometimes you just need a change of address, a change of venue. Maybe that works for John Harbaugh. And I don't even want to use the word rejuvenates, but boy, he's going to be excited and laser focused on this one. Matt Nagy running your offense, bringing Denard Wilson in to run the defense, who was a very underrated defensive coordinator because he was in Tennessee and the team overall was bad, but that defense always played hard and played well. I think that he's off to a great start that way. Plus, remember how Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart really worked together? Like, that was a real thing. We were all saying, boy, I wish everyone looked at me like Brian Daboll looks at Jackson Dart, right? I think that John Harbaugh is going to have the same type of relationship with Jackson Dart. Maybe not quite as adoring that way, but it's in the sense that he understands it, because who was the number one defender, protector, and champion of Lamar Jackson to all of us in the media? It was John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh.
He took care of Lamar Jackson as quarterback. He's going to do the same thing with Jackson Dart. And these Giants, they don't expect to rebuild very long. They expect to be in the thick of it starting next year.
And I remember during the process for Harbaugh, it was very important for him to have that connection with a quarterback. It came down to Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. So we'll see that relationship maybe flourish as the year goes on. Let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. CD, I loved Mike McCarthy's introductory press conference, and working for him when I was with the Cowboys, he always talked about how much he loved Pittsburgh. So the full circle moment for him and being able to come back to Pittsburgh is so important, but he's got to be able to win. He's following up a coach who never had a losing season here. What's the grade that you give McCarthy in this homecoming?
Well, as the late, great Bo Schembechler said when he had to replace a basketball coach around NCAA tournament time, a Michigan man will coach a Michigan team. How about a Pittsburgh man going back to coach a Pittsburgh team? I give it a B+, only because I worry a little bit about age on the defensive side of the ball. But they always figure it out. And Mike McCarthy, I know that people are going to give him a lot of grief because they didn't get over the hump with Dallas. It's been very difficult for whatever reason, but those teams were good in Dallas. He won a Super Bowl in Green Bay and was in the hunt for others there. Everywhere he goes, he wins football games. It'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do at the quarterback position, because right now it's either Aaron Rodgers or your 6th-round pick, Will Howard. I don't know if that's quite how you want to go about it, but let's see what they decide to do. But Pittsburgh tends to figure it out. And one other thing, Haley, people are going to find out just what a great job Mike Tomlin did for so many years, because they never tanked their way out of it. They were always good enough to contend for the playoffs or get into the playoffs, which kept them from getting those high draft picks to quote-unquote rebuild the team. And Mr. Rooney himself said, when you go into a season, you don't go into it to try and lose games and tank. That's not the Pittsburgh way. I like their attitude. They're going to try and get after it again. Omar Khan, ready to go to work as a general manager, going to get some resources for Mike McCarthy.
Getting it done there in a homecoming. Charles, we wrap up here with the Tennessee Titans. They got the quarterback. Now they got the coach in Robert Saleh. What do you think?
This is the sneakiest grade I'm given, and it is sheer optimism on it because I like what's happening already. Robert Saleh's brought in Gus Bradley to be his consigliere on defense, even though Robert Saleh is still going to call the defenses. But Gus, as we know, is a proven defensive coordinator in the league. Brian Daboll's coming in to tutor Cam Ward and run the offense. And you remember what he did for Josh Allen in Buffalo. I think that he's done really well already putting that together. You have the quarterback in place who played way better than people know, just because Tennessee wasn't very good last year in the second year now guy, and Cam Ward. This is an A all the way, and I'm giving it an A because Robert Saleh has learned so much from that tenure with the Jets. And how about the job he did last year with San Francisco when everyone was hurt on the defensive side of the ball and they stayed in the hunt and stayed playing well and doing a nice job. This guy's got that part figured out. I love the people he's bringing with him. Again, Tennessee, they've got some work to do, but I like the infrastructure they're putting in place now. Chad Brinker is the president of ops, Mike Bergonzi is the GM, and now Robert Saleh is their head coach. A sneaky A.
A sneaky A. I like ending it. We started with the only D of the segment. We end with an A. Charles Davis, Professor CD, if you will, breaking down all of our grades with our coaches. Charles, always so good to see you, my friend. Great conversation. One final look at that Coaching Carousel 2026 edition. All 10 vacancies have more or less officially been filled.